Hi everybody, this is our last quiz video of the year, so I'll pause for you to celebrate and clap your hands and make a lot of celebratory noise. Thank you. There are basically 4 different things that we're going to cover in this video. Really quickly reviewing the content for our quiz, which is going to be dealing with area and perimeter of quadrilateral shapes. A lot of it is going to be review since we've already kind of gone over some of that stuff, but some of it's going to be new-ish, like we will have gone over it on Thursday this week. And the quiz is on, and we'll review again on Monday, and the quiz is on Tuesday of next week, Tuesday, the 4th of June. All right. I'm realizing now that I'm looking in my video here, it's a little bit light greeny writing. Hopefully you can see it, but I'm going to say it and hopefully it'll be clear. Hopefully you can read it. But here we go. So the 4 things that we're going to be talking about: area of a rectangle. We already know that one based on sight. Area of a parallelogram. We already also know that one based on sight. Those are already in your notes. Those are in your notes from last week. Area of a triangle based on height divided by 2. Also in your notes from last week. The new one for your notes this week is area of a trapezoid, which is the one that is by far the most complex, but my hope is in this video that it'll make sense and that it'll be clear. A plus B divided by 2 times height. That's it. That's all you gotta know. You do need to memorize these formulas. I am gonna ask you on the quiz to write down the formula. You don't have to write the word base times the word height. You just write B times H, right? So that's why it's the formula. It's kind of a nice summarized version of what it is that you're going to be doing. But then you're going to also be asked to solve some problems. I'll give you some examples of, just like we're going to do in the video here. I am going to pick a different color, however, to write with. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more clear than this green is. I'm going to go with this dark blue over here. All right, so let's start by looking at some of the problems that we'll see right here. All right, so we have 2 different examples. Please remember that a rectangle is defined as 4-sided shape, 4 right angles. So we're gonna have these little, 90-degree corners here. This looks like a square because it is. Remember, the square is an example of a rectangle. It's just a special rectangle that has the equal sides, right? So if we were talking base times height, then that's going to be 5 times 5 equals 25. 25 what? Because this is 5 inches by 5 inches. 5 inches squared. You can abbreviate inches with the IN. You can abbreviate by having a little exponent here, 2. Some of you guys, I'm going to write kind of larger up here real quick. Some of you guys have been writing the exponent with a giant 2 right next to it. And just so we're really clear, remember that an exponent is in the upper right-hand corner, right? It should look sort of diagonally up from, and it should be smaller. It's a little teeny exponent. All right. So 25 inches squared, the inches squared part is part of the score. So make sure that you get that. So pay attention to, on the quiz, it'll have a unit measure here. And so make sure you show that, the inches squared there. 7 feet by 15 feet. Now you probably could sit there and chomp through 7 times 15 in your head, but why? Making your thinking clear is the right thing to do. So you can just show me over here your 7 times your 15, and you'll get your, nope, that's not right. 5 goes there, and your 3 goes, that's what I get for trying to write and talk at the same time, 105. All right, so 15 times 7 equals 105 feet squared, because our unit measure is feet. All right, so there's a couple of examples of the rectangle. That's our first thing. Here we have area of a rectangle. Here's our formula right here. And those are 2 examples of that. Next, we're going to talk about area of a parallelogram next. So we have two examples here. Please remember that the formula is also base times height for a parallelogram. Parallelograms are opposite sides parallel, right? These two sides are parallel, these two sides are parallel. Same for this shape, but also same for a square. Opposite sides are parallel. Same for a rectangle. Opposite sides are parallel. So that does make it really easy to remember that a parallelogram also has base times height as its formula. So it is 4 yards across, it is 4 yards tall. The reason why we can use base times height, even though it's not a 90-degree angled shape, is because if we were to take our imaginary scissors, I'm not going to try and draw scissors, take our imaginary knife, there I can draw a knife, and cut straight down through this dotted line area. This piece here could then be switched, flipped over, and it would fit right here, right? This little slice could fit in right here. I think I'd probably have to flip it. I think I'd have to slice it and flip it, and then it would fit right there. And then we'd end up with our square again. So 4 times 4 equals 16 yards squared. Here we have same kind of deal. I could take my magical knife, whoosh, slice this piece off, flip it. No, this one just be a slide. It's just going to be a transition slide right over. And it would, whoosh, maybe that's the same thing here. Yeah, whoosh, it would just be a slide. It wouldn't be a flip, it'd be a slide. Slide it on over. So I have a base of 12, a height of 5. 12 times 5 equals 60 centimeters squared. Now you might have your 12s memorized, but you could show me the work if you need to on that one. All right. So there's our base times height for our parallelograms. That is right here. Check. Here's our formula for parallelogram: base times height. Area of a triangle. Here's our example of a triangle. So that is the area of a triangle. We've got it done. Here are our two different ways that you might express the formula for the area of a triangle. Our last one is the area of a trapezoid. And we'll see some examples of that in just a second. All right, here we go. We got two examples of triangles. Remember, please, that our formula is base times height divided by 2. And the reason why the formula is base times height divided by 2, this is bothering me. This line is not straight enough. Let's try it again. That's a little better. Except for right there. Let's try that one more time. Okay, good enough. The reason why is because you can imagine that it is not a triangle, but it is indeed a rectangle. Then we would use our formula base times height to find the area of the entire rectangle, but it's not a rectangle, it's half of a rectangle. So we're going to divide whatever answer we get by 2 because we only want the half the area of the triangle below. So our formula would be 8 times 3 divided by 2. And I know that this looks a little strange to have it almost set up like a fraction, where you've got this fraction bar and then the product 8 times 3 above and the fraction, the denominator 2. This is the exact same thing as saying 8 times 3 divided by 2. Those are the same equivalent expressions. Because remember that we multiply and then we divide, right? So if I were to do it that way, I have 8 times 3 is 24 divided by 2, right? And we've seen fractions, 24 divided by 2, like this. Remember, we've talked about how this fraction bar here can mean divided by, right? Which equals 12. 24 divided by 2 equals 12. Oh, gosh, I forgot to put, it's not feet, it's not yards, it's not inches, it's not miles. So what are we going to call it? That's right, I heard you. Good job, it is units squared. When there's no unit measurement given, feet, miles, inches, centimeters, then we just call them units. All right? I didn't give myself very much room over here, but we're gonna make it work. All right, and it's a big one, right? It's 21 yards across, 16 yards tall. Our base times height divided by 2 is going to be 21 times 16 divided by 2. What's 21 times 16? I don't know, but let's figure it out. 21, 16 multiply 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12. Smiley face. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2. Add our 2 rows together. 336. 336 divided by 2. What's that? Well, you might be able to do that in your head, but I don't know why you would. So I'm going to write it down here and divide it by 2. 2 goes into 3 one time. 2 times 2 is 2. Subtract, I get 1. I bring down my 13. I know some of you are in your head going, division, division. I thought we were done with division. You're never done with division. All right, 2 goes into 13. I don't know, what? 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. Subtract, I get a 1. Bring down your 6. 2 goes into 16, 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract, you get 0. So our answer equals 168. I crammed up against the edge here. Why'd I do that? Some of you do that. Why do we do that? I don't know. Yards squared. Square yards. 168 square yards is the final answer. I would love to see all of this work here, right? When you were solving the problem on the quiz. All right, base times height divided by 2 is our formula. Here's 2 examples of it. I can make you this promise. I was a Boy Scout, so Scout's honor. We will not have any funky answers that are going to be into decimals. They're all going to have a nice whole answer, okay? All right, we'll do the next one in just a second. All right, the area of a trapezoid. A plus B divided by 2 times height. So in this expression, in this formula, we are going to do the A plus B part first. So perhaps if we wanted to, we could put parentheses around it just to remind ourselves that we do that first. If you think about PEMDAS, parentheses, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? So if it helps to remember that the A plus B is going to happen first, we could put parentheses around it. And you can certainly put that in your formula. That would be helpful for you to remember. So A plus B, what are we talking about? The short side on the trapezoid, we're going to call A. The long side on the bottom, we're going to call B. And it might be helpful to remember that B is like the base, right? The foot of the trapezoid. Height is still the height, how tall it is from the line between A and B, how tall this shape is, right? Here is why that formula works, all right? If you were to take 2 of these trapezoids and take one of them and flip it, you'd have 2 of these shapes. Now you'd have a parallelogram. And the parallelogram would be this length, B, plus this length, A, right? Maybe I should make it a little bit longer. If we took this and copied it and flipped it over, here's B, here's A. This length here is the same as this length here, right? This length here is the same as this length up on top, right? So now we have a nice parallelogram. And then remember, our parallelogram area is base times height, right? What is our base? Our base is B plus A. these two lengths, times height, divided by 2, because we don't have 2 of these trapezoids, we only have 1 of them. All right, so that's why that formula works, is if you were to take this trapezoid shape, flip it and attach it, now you'd have a parallelogram, right? These two sides are parallel, these two sides are parallel. We could do base times height, but we want to divide that by 2 because we don't have 2 trapezoids. All right, so that is why that formula works. So a plus b, let's just fill it all in. A plus b, that's going to be 8 plus 12 over 2 times height, 4. Okay, now remember that, and this is not going to be on the quiz, but remember the commutative property of multiplication says that 6 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 6. A times b is the same thing as b times a. So we can do this part of it first and then multiply times 4, or we could do the whole thing and divide that by 2. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to go, let's simplify this expression here a little bit. The 8 plus 12 we can do, remember that's in parentheses. 8 plus 12 is 20 over 2 times 4. All right. What's 20 divided by 2? Because remember, this fraction bar here means divided by. 20 divided by 2 is 10 times 4, which is 40. 40 what? I didn't give you any units, or it didn't tell you it was miles or inches or feet, so we're going to call it units squared. All right. Here's our base, the b. Here's the top, a plus b divided by 2 times the 4. All right. When you are solving this on the quiz, I want to see you have this formula. I want to see you filling in the formula with these values that are here. I want it so that it'll look like this. I don't want you to skip any steps. I want you to then solve this expression one step at a time, just like I did. 8 plus 12 is 20. Divided by 2 times 4. 20 divided by 2 is 10 times 4. Then we have 40. Okay? So it should have all of these steps when you were doing it on the quiz. All right? So there is our area of a trapezoid. Here is our formula for area of a trapezoid. All right? Those are our 4 things that are going to be on the quiz. Area of a rectangle, parallelogram, triangle, trapezoid. All right. Thanks, guys. I want you to write it all down in your journal. I want you to take a photo of it and attach it in Google Classroom. That's probably going to be one of the final homework assignments we have. We have our quiz on the 4th. That's our last day of academics, so that's probably going to be our last homework assignment. So good luck on that quiz. Please see me if you have any questions. Monday would be your last chance to check in if you want to go through any of the questions, get a practice on any of those problems. Check in. Tuesday the 4th is it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.